I want to talk about fairness in life and why life is primarily unfair, why it doesn't give us what we usually want. OCD and anxiety sufferers know this very well, but I've worked with numerous cases where people have had cancer and OCD, severe drug addiction, meth, heroin, fentanyl, overdoses, severe alcohol addiction, being fired, losing their job, being homeless. So life is extremely brutal. Even in the best of areas, it can be tough. Take someone who lives in a very, very expensive area of, say, Beverly Hills. Hey, what's your property tax bill? $150,000 a year. I'm like, holy shit. Or, hey, what's your homeowner association on your townhome in Miami? 10 grand a month. Now, they pick and choose that, but life has lots of obstacles. I'm just using that as a monetary perspective. Or maybe someone's never had any mental health struggling in their life per se, and they've gone through a lot of hardship, right? They lost their mother to cancer, maybe a little bit younger. Maybe their son passed away in a motor vehicle accident. I follow a neurologist on Instagram who I like listening to. He's just a very well thought out individual who lost his son when he was 18 years old in a motor vehicle crash, which was a very sad case. And I want to talk about how I've changed my opinion, why this will have a good amount of tough love in it, and why I think most of the information on social media, from my perspective and my beliefs, which is coming from a mixture of unconditional, self-life, other acceptance. You have to know where I'm coming from. The REBT principles, which are non-watered down versions of CBT today. Most CBT today is not CBT. It's watered down talk therapy because it's hard. It's hard to apply belief systems to other people because most people are resilient to change and they do not want to change their belief systems. They'll do whatever it takes. Forget OCD. One time someone asked me, oh, it must be a lot easier for a non-sufferer to change their beliefs. I said, no, not at all. Because they don't have the emotional disturbance fueling them to want to change. So you could have a rigid belief, no anxiety, no panic, no shame or guilt. Why would you want to change? You've convinced yourself that your way of thinking is correct, when actually there is no correct way of thinking. I'm just saying from a pros cons list. So before I go any further, please subscribe. Hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think about this video. We have a lot of great webinars. The ones that we have coming up over the next couple weeks, 50, 60, 70 people. When you email Phil, let them know about the webinars. He'll send it to you. And the one-to-one coaching is very specific. I go into detail in the one-to-one coaching that you're never going to get anywhere else more than likely. The notes I take on my calls, I pride myself behaviorally in having very specific and detailed notes. That way the person can see what they have to work on, and I explain to them not to reread my notes all the time and stuff like that. So when you go on social media, which is where most people get the majority of their mental health and motivational, just information from, let's just stick in the department of OCD, anxiety/panic, and trauma. 99.9% of it is lighthearted and not going to get you better. I know that's difficult to hear. I know it sounds biased, but it's difficult to get better when all the information that you're hearing on social media is about your values, live by your values, don't let anyone walk on your toes, show people why you're important. You're not important at all. In the grand scheme of life, you are a human, even with the most amount of achievements. There are people right now who have achieved things in ancient Egypt who no one even knows. Had temples in gold. You know the big names, right? Can't even say their names. King Tut, I don't know the full name. A couple other. But you know how many kings there were and princes and queens throughout history in different countries that had so much wealth and power that no one knows? That doesn't mean that you can't be important to yourself, but expecting other people to view you in consideration is extremely unrealistic. I don't like the facts don't care about your feelings approach because then there's no compassion. But I do think it's important to highlight because compassion and empathy is critical. I can talk to anyone with any belief, any religious, political, money, OCD belief, or anything. I get made fun of and ripped down all the time. You got to remember where I'm coming from. I'm coming from someone who's coming from the coaching perspective of the sufferer. A lot of people in the community don't like that. They don't like what I stand for. They call me braggadocious. They call me a macho guy or something like that. It's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. I have a mission. and we're going to talk about this in the later part of the video, how no one achieved anything great in this life, man or female, without being able to take criticism and being torn down at every corner and solving problems. If you can't do that, you got to be ready for people to make fun of you. I mean, crap, all you got to do is go on Google and type in Amazon reviews. Amazon's still one of the biggest companies on earth, and the reviews are epic. Epic. I would rather have a camel deliver my stuff than Amazon. They're so shitty. I mean, it's just, that's what it is, right? You're going to get torn down. And if that's affecting you in a deep emotional state, you're going to have to work on that. So, again, the facts don't care about your feelings is non-compassionate, which isn't a good way. But in the grand scheme of accepting the realities of you not mattering, in the grand scheme of the universe, is factually correct, right? And not in the sense of I need to know the facts in the research way. So this is how I looked at it. I said, no one really cares about you like you care about yourself. Even the closest people to you, even my wife and my mom, they care about their existence more so than they care about me by default. Even when people are like, they put other people above them and they're selfless. Not true. They still ingest food and drink water and try to get shelter to keep them alive over you, even your children. If you don't keep yourself alive, you can't take care of your children. So by default, you are the most important thing in your world. Some different than other people. The other thing is that when things go according to what you believe is incorrect or not proper for your life, the mistake that most people make is they blame immediately. So not everyone's a narcissist. Narcissistic personality disorder is rare. It's rare. Most people have the fear of rejection that comes across in a macho way, which then makes them seem arrogant, and then people go, they're narcissistic. Narcissistic people don't know that they're narcissists because it's a personality trait that might not be changeable. It's like, I was speaking to someone the other day where they were like, people are coming out and saying, be proud of being a sociopath and a psychopath. Sociopaths and psychopaths do not go on YouTube channels and brag about how they're a sociopath. If you're a sociopath, you're living under the radar and you don't want to be found. Now, I know what you're thinking in the OCD sense. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about in a general recommendations, not the fears of being a sociopath. But this world of inclusion that we live in is a pipe dream. People have been killing each other in the name of God. More people have died in the name of God than anything. Nothing has even come close. Not even close to that throughout history. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay in the sense that people have died, but it's okay that that's a reality that we have to accept. Political stuff as well, but a lot of political beliefs for, if you watched Zero Dark 30, which was the mission with Osama bin Laden, when they killed Osama bin Laden, they said for God and country. I will say again, for God and country. So people will always be killing and wanting to shut people up based on their beliefs. This is why none of this stuff affects me. I don't like a lot of this stuff. I don't like what happens in the world by any means. And I have virtuous urges to want to fight at times, virtuously in my belief system. But then I have to sit down and weigh those pros and cons, because in the past I would just think about something and go, I'm going to solve that problem. And that never worked because there was no calculation and it was just straight impulse, which is how humans primarily act. So these are all, and I know this video is just, we're all over the place. I'm just talking about my philosophies and what I say. So other people not wanting to understand your OCD is none of your business, whether they live with you or not. It's frustrating and it's tedious work, but there's many things I deal with in my life that are tedious in my business, and having to maintain an intimate relationship with my wife, and we both work long, hard hours, 7 days a week. I mean, she works most days of the week. She does something on most days, but I'm pretty much an all-in type of character. So there's a lot of sacrifices with that. There's a lot of things that aren't fair. I do, coaching with someone for a long time, and then they decide to give me attitude in the call because they're having a bad day. I can put my foot down, but I have to accept that. My father dying of cancer was a great one. I still remember the phone calls in fourth quarter of Cairo school. 1 year in was at my first convention. I was in the McDonald's parking lot. Eric was next to me. I have a 10-centimeter tumor on my pancreas. Erica starts crying. I say, is it on your liver? I just took GI, gastrointestinal pathology, literally that whole quarter. And I said, did it metastasize to your liver? And he said, yes. And I said, you're dead. It just came out of my mouth. You're dead. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I think he said, yeah, I'm in trouble. And I was like, yeah, you're definitely in big fucking trouble. And he died 7 months later, right? But I had a father in my life. He died when I was 28, but I had a father in my life. And then, think about how easy this would be for me. I lost my father. Then I lost my aunt 3 months later, my mom's only sibling. My mom lost her husband, her sister, her only sibling, in 90 days basically apart. April, May, June. And then her dog died. My dog Lily, I grew up with since I was a kid, died like a couple months after that. You know how they always say, what does it say? Tragedies come in threes. And that way you can have that statement about anything if you're looking out for it and putting patterns together in your mind that don't exist. But that's a whole nother story, talking about luck and etc. So when that happened to me, I was in a very dark place. I started smoking again. I was smoking vape rigs all the time. And then 18 months later, I had severe OCD, was in the mental hospital 5 months after that. So I had a 2-year period where a lot of shit just did not go my way. But I had a great life before that. And also, life doesn't owe me anything. So what I want you to be aware of is there's two extremes right now. And I try my best to be in the middle. But as a human being, I can be biased and fault to certain ways like we all are. So we have to be careful of the rigidness of the facts don't care about your feelings. Fuck you. You a bitch and all that. We got to be careful about that side because then that applies no compassion and no empathy at all. And then we don't have critical thinking in the way that people think. I've been talking about in some of my videos. I just read this book by MIT on critical thinking, and I didn't understand anything I read. It was a very difficult book. It was up there with the myth of self-esteem, but it talked about premises and conclusions and then congratulating people. Hey, that's a really good point. I see where you're coming from, but hey, have you thought about this? Instead of, you're an idiot, facts don't care about your feelings, you're a moron. That's a very petty and childish behavioral way to hold a conversation that seems powerful, hence why we do it. I did this. But then we don't want to go the other way, which is everyone loves you. The world is safe spaces. Everyone should respect your values. Do whatever you want to do. But that's not true either. It's not that I care about what people do with, say, their hair color. But if you put a bunch of big gauges in your ear and you do a septum piercing and a bridge piercing and you have a tattoo on your head and you dye your hair blue and you go in public, you do whatever you want. I have friends that do this. I'm just saying from an example purpose, don't be surprised that people judge you because that's what people do. People judge me all the time. I'm loud. I like to talk. I like to joke around. One of my favorite missions in life is to make people laugh, but sometimes my jokes don't always land. They come across too aggressive. I was listening to Eminem, and Eminem, in one of his songs, he was like, if people only knew the stuff I cut out and they didn't see, they would think I'm even crazier or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, people saw some of the jokes I make with my friends. They'd be like, this guy is fucked up. But I've been like that my whole life. I was raised in an environment, the Northeast, yeah, you do it, in Jersey, it's how we talk. So when my buddy came and we were hiking around with my friends in Colorado, he was like, you guys are really mean to each other. I'm like, not really, just how we talk. So that's one of the things that we have to think about when we're going throughout life. And for me, I also have to know too, after I go to a gym, Daisy just hit my thing. After I go to a gym or something, she's underneath me, and I go to a store or something in my cutoff shirt, maybe I go to the grocery store or something, there's people there that are probably going to be like, look at this braggadocious meathead in his cutoff shirt in the Starbucks parking lot. I mean, that's okay. I mean, people judge. We're judgment. We put value judgments on everything. So the reason why I want to make this video is because you really have to think about how you're perceiving life in a fairness way, trying to come in a balanced manner. And when you're having a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with you, hey, I see where you're coming from. I am sorry that happened. Maybe we could work on that. Maybe they're still like, and they don't want to talk to you, and then we have to move on and feeling those uncomfortable sensations. So I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, the webinars are growing, 8:30 p.m. UK times. The one-to-ones are very customizable. We go through everything in great detail. I hope to see you there. Our schedules are very, very, very busy. We work all around the clock with all time zones. I can do calls at 5 in the morning versus 8 o'clock at night, depending on the day, and I hope to see you there. Have a good one, everyone.